Star Trek, the ultimate franchise. These are the voyages of 3 veteran Trekkies, Rich, Ian, and Toby. Their ongoing mission? To explore the vast Star Trek universe, to seek out new perspectives and fresh debates, to boldly go where no podcast has gone before. Beyond the Final Frontier.
Hello and welcome to Beyond the Final Frontier, a Star Trek podcast with me, your host, Rich Matthews, and my fellow intrepid voyagers, Mr. Ian Spelling.
Hey there, everybody.
And Mr. Toby Weidman.
Hello.
In today's episode, we're going to look at our top 7 dreams, nightmares, and fantasies in Star Trek, which is an interesting topic, and as I think has popped up quite a few times across all the different series, but in different incarnations, and it's going to be interesting to see what things we can and we don't leave out. For instance, I know I've left out things like The Inner Light or Far Beyond the Stars, where it's sort of not really a fantasy or dream or a nightmare. It's sort of an alternative experience a bit. I mean, if they're in your list, I understand why, but for me, I left those out.
Shore Leave would also be another one we'd leave out in that instance.
In which case, that's interesting.
In the spirit of wanting to cover something new, I've also left a lot of those ones out because I wanted to talk about episodes that we haven't talked about before.
Which, everybody at home, this is a catch-22 for the three of us.
Yeah.
Because we love the episodes that we love, and it's hard to leave out episodes that belong. So in some cases, we are finding technicalities for not including things, and that creates, honestly, some internal debate amongst ourselves before we even reach out and communicate with you folks.
Yeah.
But I like setting parameters for ourselves. It makes it a little more fun and increases the challenge of finding new and fresh things to say, and also maybe looking and including episodes that we might not otherwise include, because our list of 1 to 7 is actually 1 to 10 because we've left out Inner Light and, Shore Leave and whatever else.
Yeah, agreed.
I kind of get a kick out of it, to be honest with you guys.
Well, there's a total of about, if you take out Shore Leave, there's been 22 episodes across all seasons that fit this theme. Interestingly, with Next Generation and Voyager having the most.
Voyager definitely very high.
And with the lowest one, do you want to take a guess, ignoring the animated series?
Discovery?
No, it's Discovery has none. So yeah, Strange New Worlds has 1.
So I'm right, is what you said.
Yeah.
That clearly pained Rich to acknowledge.
And I haven't even watched all of Discovery.
Sort of left a sour taste in my mouth. But in terms of, and then Enterprise and then DS9, which is in the original series, which is interesting. So, breaking format very slightly today, Toby, would you like to kick off with your number 7 dreams, nightmare, and fantasy episode?
Sure. I'll keep this relatively short because the episode is short, because I picked Lower Decks. And the reason I picked Lower Decks is my number 1 is quite serious and heavy allegory.
Can I guess that your Lower Decks is Crisis Point?
It's not.
Really?
It's Mining the Mind's Mind.
Wow.
From season 3.
Full respect, but my number 13 would have been Crisis Point.
The reason why it comes down to one very small point, and that is the guest voice of Susan Gibney as Dr. Leah Brahms.
Yeah, deep cut.
I've always liked that character. I think Booby Trap and Galaxy's Child are underrated episodes of Next Gen. Here, she's very much a fantasy version of it, which is closer to the Booby Trap, that she's Rutherford's fantasy. And I know I would have crumbled within a second and spent all night increasing gravimetric power limits with her, as she promises Rutherford to do. There are some fun other stuff in there as well. There's a Borgified dragon monster, which is the Kukulkan from the animated series, How Sharper Than a Serpent's Tooth. And then you also get Mariner's Andorian girlfriend, Jen, who crops us up as well, being very naughty and provocative. In terms of Lower Decks, it's one of the lighter ones. It's played very much for laughs. I know it is a comedy series at the end of the day, but this one, there's no real deep story in it. It's quite fun. And I wanted to start off with a fun one. So that's it.
My number 7 is Persistence of Vision from our good friends at Voyager. I mean, Janeway's fantasies start to blur into real life, into waking moments. And it's a fascinating character to do that with, because we think of Janeway as a very serious character who probably doesn't spend a lot of time in her fantasy life. And to kind of get a window into that, I thought was really interesting. And I doubly love Kate Mulgrew's performance in this episode. It's very nuanced. She goes places that we haven't seen before or really since in this episode. We get her vulnerability without losing the fact that she is the captain, and she has to react to what's happening in her head in real time. It affects her performance as the captain and Mulgrew's performance as the character. What's cool is how tempting is the fantasy. I mean, she's got to go back to reality, even though the fantasy is so cool. And that's a classic, we'll call it a trope, but it's a classic fantasy sci-fi thing that they do. Is the fantasy better than what we're living? Most fantasies are, right? If you had the opportunity to go there and stay there, would you? It's very Star Trekian, for lack of a better term, and I just think it's a strong number 7. It's slightly ahead, I'm sure this is on both of your lists, Shore Leave, only based on our criteria for what was forming this list.
Yep. Same likewise. My one would have been Shore Leave, but isn't, based on this. My number 7 is Vanishing Point from Enterprise, when Hoshi is caught in for only like a few seconds in a pattern buffer in the transporter, and imagines this whole episode scenario where she thinks she's becoming insignificant and literally invisible following a transporter accident. And I chose it because it's a fun idea, interesting to sort of buffer delusions. It also opens up all sorts of horrible thoughts about what happened to like Thomas Riker and Scotty being trapped in buffers all that time. I mean, if she can live a whole episode's worth of storyline in that time, imagine what they lived through. But equally, because it's kind of ironic that it's Hoshi who kind of was insignificant and invisible a lot of the time for Linda Park. So it was quite, I thought it was an interesting marrying of theme and subject, and she's really good in the episode.
I've picked this episode as well. It's much higher on my list, but I can talk about this now if you like.
No, I wouldn't actually save it.
Okay.
So number 6.
My number 6, I'm just going to say Akuchimoya, far from the sacred places of my grandfathers, far from the bones of my people, I seek your thoughts on this episode of Voyager called Waking Moments from season 4. It's a good Chakotay episode, finally. Almost inevitably, the story leans into his heritage without really defining it particularly well. And, you know, while it was good to see that kind of representation in Star Trek, they never really made the best use of it. And it kind of got to a point where it became Chakotay's only defining trait, really. Which is a shame, because we've mentioned before that Beltran's a great actor. But what I like about this episode, I like the bait and switch of who's awake and who's dreaming. If you don't buy into that, it breaks this episode. So it's make or break, really. I enjoy that aspect of playing with reality, and I think it works for me in this one. I like the idea that the central premise of an alien species that uses the dream world as essentially their reality. I didn't see all of the twists coming, and I rewatched this again. I saw some of it, and then some of it I didn't see, so it worked well for me on that point. I also want to give out a shout out to the director of this episode, which is Alexander Singer, serial Star Trek director. This was his last episode, last directorial credit, in fact, which he directed at the age of 70.
Oh, wow.
And he died not that long ago in 2020, age 92.
Good innings.
Mm-hmm.
That episode, FYI, is a little higher on my list. My number 6 is The Thaw. It's a virtual nightmare. It feeds on fear. It's the circus. It's a clown. I mean, this is scary stuff for a lot of people. It's really pretty close to psychological horror.
Mm-hmm.
it explores the concept of fear, I would say, more and better than probably just about any other episode of Star Trek across the board.
If we do a Star Trek horror list, this would definitely be on there.
Yeah.
Right. And a lot of this goes to Michael McKean. Man, did he deliver a really cool performance. Look, he could have handed up here, and I really didn't think he did. He brought the menace and the dark humor that makes the menace pay off. I thought he was scary as shit, and I loved his scenes with Kate Mulgrew, particularly the one at the end with I'm Afraid. Janeway Mulgrew is there face-to-face, line for line, reaction to reaction. I think it's one of Kate's best performances on the show as a whole. I remember seeing it at the time as a preview episode that they sent on videotape. Watching it again for this, it's as strong as ever. And the visuals are so cool. And the music was creepy as could be. So I'm a big fan of this episode. And only, again, this being Star Trek, and there just being so much to discuss, I actually thought this was going to be higher on my list. But it's a solid 6.
I love the idea of Michael McKean being, is it Squiggy he played on?
No, he was Lenny.
Lenny, he was Lenny. I always get them confused, yeah.
Squiggy was another Star Trek guest star. David L. Lander, the late, great David L. Lander.
Ah, excellent, see. My number 6 is the same as Toby's. It's Waking Moments, which I think you could probably say it's the most purely dream-driven hour of Trek, really, I think, overall. I mean, there are other dreams, but it's so clearly about that. And the thing I like about it is that, that it's built around the idea of false awakenings, which you talked about, Toby, which I really like that as a conceit. And again, the episode rides on it, so if it doesn't work, the episode doesn't work, but I think it does really well. And I like the fact that Andre Bormanis, when he wrote it, it's actually based on his own experience of lucid dreaming, and I think that's what comes over. And I believe, if I'm right, that Braga didn't want to do it because he sort of poo-pooed the idea that a dream could be as vivid as reality, and overtly stating that. And the way he communicated it through his draft and through the final episode, ultimately directed by Singer, I think works really well. And as an extrapolation of that, and again, it's a shame it comes so defining for Chakotay, but at the core is a really great episode behind it. So that's my number 6 too.
It's Bormanis' first story as well, wasn't it? Because he'd been working as the science consultant, I believe, up until that point.
Yeah.
But then he did go on to write a few others. My number 5, and I think this might be higher on other people's lists, I don't know, but it's another Voyager, season 6. It's Tinker Tenor Dr. Spy.
Interesting. Not even in my top 13.
Oh, really? Okay. My thoughts on this episode are kind of mixed. It is undeniably very funny, with great performances throughout from all the cast, including the guest stars. But I do find the EMH's objectification of all the female senior staff a little bit problematic. It does feel very 1990s. It is possibly a case of looking at it in hindsight, which is something that we've discussed before. I probably laughed my ass off the first time I saw this, with the women characters fighting over the EMH's attentions. Now it does feel a little bit creepy. As a hologram, does the EMH have to be cisgendered? I mean, what if they'd made one of the fantasies about Tom Paris? Something like that. Maybe that would have made it a little bit more compelling and added to the awkwardness of when his daydreams are revealed to the crew. It is slightly tempered, my feelings on that, by the fact that I've read interviews with Kate Mulgrew and Jerry Ryan where they said that they just had a hoot shooting it. So, they found the Doctor's sexual fantasies about them very comedic. Kate Mulgrew actually said, "It's just delicious, a joyful feast, and certainly no one could have done it as well as Bob did." So, maybe it gets a pass on that point. I don't know. I'm kind of torn on it. Another issue I have is where this episode falls in Voyager's run. So it's in season 6. The Doctor's complaints about being overlooked or treated poorly by the crew. By this point, he has saved the crew multiple times. So maybe if this had happened earlier on in the series run, maybe it would be better.
That's an interesting point. Yeah.
Of all of Star Trek, I think Bob Picardo, he plays the fish out of water better than anyone. And so when he is put into the position of the command hologram and doesn't really know how to do it until he finally steps up, I think he does that really, really well. I think he's obviously the star of this episode. And his rendition of La Donna Immobile from Rigoletto is, at the start, is excellent.
I'm going with Night Terrors, Next Generation.
That's my next one. That's my fourth spot.
I love that the dream episode is about being unable to dream. I just think that's very, very cool. We're talking about people going a little bit mad as a result of that. Hey, Troy gets something to do. Hey, Marina Sirtis gets something to do and kills it. She's just great in this episode. I like the science that's in there. One moon circles. It's all science. It's protons and neutrons and atoms and
Eyes in the dark.
Eyes in the dark. One circles. Yes. It's not quite Rigoletto, but it's very cool. It's a really, I think we've all at this point used the word creepy in our conversation of these episodes, but this is really creepy concept and really delivered as a creepy hour as a whole. The practical effects, the wire work, to give us, floating Troy is really cool as well. It's, in my opinion, other than Picard stuff that came later, actually, Marina's best performance. Dark Page was also excellent, but this was a different type of performance than Dark Page. I just thought she really sold what was happening in this episode to Troy extraordinarily well. There's a difference between favorite and best, and this is a conversation we've had. Night Terrors is actually up there as a favorite versus a best. There's other things that aren't as strong with the episode, but all in all, I think Marina and Troy carry the hour really exceptionally well.
Do you want to know the Marina tidbit as well?
Go for it.
She'd asked for more action sequences and then instantly regretted it because she has a fear of heights.
Yep.
So when she was doing the wire work, that look of terror on her face, she was actually feeling that. She hated it.
Right. Not acting.
Be careful what you wish for. Yeah. So my number 5 is the Elysian Kingdom from Strange New Worlds.
That almost made my list.
Yeah, which I thought about it, and the reason I've got it, and I've got it so high actually, is because I like I always like the M'Benga's daughter storyline, and in terms of the tragedy it brought to that character.
But that's really not one of the fantasy elements or dream elements of the episode.
No, but it's the fact she is the source of it, the author of it, that it stems from her.
Yeah,
and the idea of the Boltzmann brain, I think, is the sentient nebula, the way it transfigures everything. And I also think it's the better version of some of the stuff they do in season 3, which they don't do quite as well, which is the clear relish the cast has in playing against type, playing different characters. And I think this is the most fun version. Like, you get this in season 3, you sort of had this stuff with the Rhys Darby episode, and again, some of it's not as effective. The Vulcan transformation, that's a sort of an attempt to reclaim, I think, the whimsy of this episode. And the thing I like is that it turns by the end, it actually becomes from sort of a camp costume romp into quite a moving conclusion with the farewell between M'Benga and his daughter and stuff. And I think that's a really nice turn. So they're all having fun, and I think it is one in the most sort of, it's most in the keeping with, in the spirit of something like the Squire of Gothos, Cupid, and those kind of episodes. So yeah, it's probably my most fun one on the list by far, but I wanted to have something that wasn't too creepy.
It's number 9 on my list of 7 after Shore Leave. The costumes were incredible. I really want to give a shout out here to Christina Chong.
Yeah, she kills it.
I thought her performance was great, and her dog in that episode is her dog Runa.
Oh.
So if you see Christina at conventions, she always brings her dog with her, and that's the dog in the episode, who I thought did a brilliant job.
Cool.
She was a bark above.
Woof. My number 4, as mentioned, is Night Terrors from Next Generation Season 4. I love this episode. When we had Gates on last season, I mentioned to her that my favourite scene of hers was from this episode, and it's not just one of my favourite scenes of hers, it's one of my favourite scenes in the whole of Star Trek, and it's the one of her in the morgue when the cadavers start to move, and how she galvanizes herself. Feeding my horror noggin, this scene carries this episode quite a long way.
Horror noggin.
It is interesting that most of the production staff really hate this episode.
Oh.
Reading interviews with the cast and crew, no one seemed to really like it. Episode director Les Landau refuses to even talk about it.
Wow.
Which is interesting. But yeah, I really like the morgue sequence, which is why it couldn't go any higher, but had to be on my list.
My number 4 is Star Trek The Next Generation, but it's not an episode. It's Generations.
Oh, okay.
I love the sequence with Christmas. It is a dream sequence. It fits the mold of what we're talking about here. The Nexus kind of gives us the fantasy bit. I mean, you've got Kirk and Picard on horses and whatnot, but it's still the particular Victorian Christmas.
Who was that? Was that you, Rich?
Yeah, my
Was that you agreeing with me or disagreeing?
Almost deafened me.
Was that the ghost of Christmas past?
My pop shield fell. My pop shield fell and hit the mic.
Gong.
Sorry.
It's the Gong Show. I'm off the show. I mean, what we really get is the family life that Picard always wanted. His deepest wish was to have family, to be a family man, to be a father, a grandfather, you know, a lover, have a wife and a family. And he gave all of that up for his ship, for his crew eventually, and for Starfleet. Leaving that is leaving a lot, right? He could have stayed and been blissfully happy if he would have allowed himself to be it. And this is the work of some beautiful cinematography and Herman Zimmerman's production design. That set is just really, really, really cool. And let's give credit where it's due as well to Patrick Stewart for selling a mostly dialogue-free moment so beautifully with the expressions on his face. And then you get Whoopi Goldberg coming in as Guinan and saying, none of this is real. And that's the power and the curse of dreams and fantasies, right? They're not real. You can try to make them real if you remember them, but it doesn't mean you can pull it off, and it doesn't mean reality will resemble the dream at all. In fact, it could be worse. So I always found that a powerful moment. And I always kind of smile when I remember seeing, this is what, 1994 we're talking? Production stills, kind of like the Alice Eve photos from Into Darkness pissed us off. I was always excited remembering, hey, Christmas in a Star Trek movie? Religion? A dream? You know, what is this? And so that actually worked for me as a marketing thing when we saw those. So my number 4.
It's interesting you're picking that bit over Picard meeting Kirk, which I think most people would pick as the fantasy element.
It's less fantastical, isn't it?
It's less fantastical. I mean, the woman on the horse, you know, is a really cool bit from the distance. But I just thought that the Christmas sequence had more emotional relevance to me. And I didn't think the meeting of these two great guys riding horses, because Shatner wanted to ride horses with Picard, was all that effective. I thought that the Victorian Christmas was just a little more emotionally fraught and more powerful moment for me.
Cool. Interesting.
All our number 4s are Next Generation, because my number 4 is the episode which made me always want a Marina Sirtis cake.
Peptide!
Yeah, Phantasms, season 7 of Next Gen, where Data's newly active dream program starts generating nightmares that are, again, very creepy, but also quite funny. They're very witty. And it's the blending of the sort of surreal horror with that comedy. And I do really like the holodeck, Freud, coming to analyze Data's dreams. I find that incredibly funny. And I love the tradition of Data going and seeking out interactions with these historic intellectual powerhouses.
Sometimes a hologram's just a hologram, Rich.
Well, you know, but what about your hologram's mother?
I've always wondered, because we can discuss this, because I've got this in my 3rd spot.
Oh, okay.
Right. So, Freud, what would he say about Data wielding a giant knife and stabbing a woman in the breast? Given Freud's predilection for...
It wasn't predilection, everything was...
It is a very fair question.
Yeah, well, I mean, my joke used to be that the quintessential Freud dream would be dreaming about an obelisk in a wardrobe. because it's sort of it was always tracked back to that. But he would say it was a classic Oedipal complex.
Yeah.
That Data's lack of a real penis actually makes him act out the Oedipal complex in a very violent way, because he has both the Electra complex that the woman has, envying the man's penis, and the Oedipus complex of wanting to sleep with his mother.
And then a few episodes later, he actually meets his mother.
Yes. Is this the first mention of penis on our podcast?
Well, he is fully functional. Joking aside, I think that's a very pertinent piece of imagery from Braga. This might be my favourite Patrick Stewart direction.
Yes, I agree. I think it builds on what they did in Birthright, Part 1, though, in terms of like the look of the dreams.
Yeah, I'd agree with that.
What's interesting is that Jean-Luc Picard is in the episode quite a bit. Normally when they direct, they step back, right? They don't have many scenes to perform so that they can spend it on direction. But he is in a fair bit of this story.
You know, guys, I had to look up Freud from this episode. The actor was Bernard Cates, who was very good in the episode. But the interesting connection is an actor named Rod Loomis played Freud in Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure.
Yes.
And he played Dr. Mannheim in We'll Always Have Paris.
Oh, there you go.
There you go.
Star Trek connections.
But I think the key thing about it is that it does dream sequences right. If you're going to, even ignoring it in its Star Trek context, if you're going to point towards a good dramatic evocation of dream sequences, I think Phantasms does it brilliantly.
Well, I mean, is this Star Trek's weirdest episode? It's got to be up there.
That's an interesting question. I don't think I have a quick and easy answer to that.
I mean, the Thor would be one as well that you would include.
That's what I was going to say. Thaw is way up there.
Yeah, I think probably the Thor.
I mean, Deanna Troi is a cake. A straw coming out. Riker's head with Crusher sucking on it. It is weird.
There is I do love the fact there's always so many comments on every time that something weird happens to the crew. They basically imply that Riker's dumb. Like, he turns into a caveman, a proto-human simian, and then also always getting his brains sucked out, and it's like,
yeah,
okay, interesting. I think Jonathan Frakes has a good sense of humour.
Yeah.
My feed into this is Star Trek answering the age-old question, do androids dream of electric sheep? And the answer is no. They dream of Deanna Troi as a cellular peptide cake.
With mint frosting.
Ian, have you ever come across a replica of that cake at a con?
Yes, I have, actually.
I was going to say, it would surprise me if it hadn't been done.
Yeah, somebody did it as a costume. By the way, just this episode is my number 2 as well. So just shout out to Michael Dorn bringing the comedy in this episode as well. Brent is the one who always gets, he's so funny, he's so funny, he's so funny. Dorn actually does a really nice job here.
Yeah, Dorn's a comedic secret weapon always. I maintain my favourite comedy line in Star Trek is his, which is in Cupid. I protest. I'm not a merry man.
A merry man, yes.
Brilliantly delivered.
I just want to highlight one quote, which is a very real quote from Freud, which Troi mentions, which is, dreams are the royal road to the unconscious. I think that's actually quite a contemplative thought, very poetically expressed.
Is it contemplative or contemplative?
Depends where you land.
Where you live.
Exactly. I was not speaking metaphorically. I was
where your plane lands. Yes,
yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
So that was my number 2. My number 3 is...
That was my number 3 as well.
Yeah. So, yeah.
Number 3 is Waking Moments for me, for all the reasons that you guys discussed. It's a very cool dream episode. Everybody gets kind of an awakening in here, and the illusion is cool. Janeway keeps thinking she's escaped, but she's not, so it's a little bit of a mousetrap thing going on for her. Yes, Beltran actually has something to do, and he rides that for all it's worth. I thought it was a very strong episode all around.
Well, my number 3 is the Thor Voyager, which we pretty much covered. The only sort of things that's probably worth pointing out, I like it for all the reasons you say. Michael McKean is great and really, truly menacing, which is an interesting thing because he doesn't generally play that kind of character, and it's really nice to see that steel running through his performance. But also the fact that a lot of the background performers were Cirque du Soleil, which is quite interesting in terms of the clowning and the physical ability and how that's done. And I believe that Marvin Rush, when he directed it, was deliberately referencing 8.5. Otto e Mezzo, the Fellini film. Once you know that, you can see it. When you rewatch, you can see the layering of the motifs, and that's really, but it's not overdone. It doesn't feel,
Rigoletto and Fellini in the same episode of Beyond the Final Frontier. Guys, you are getting your culture today.
Well, we try. It's the heat. But it's also
need something to distract us.
Indeed. But I would also echo what you said, Ian, which is that final beat where Janeway, with ice in her veins, fear only exists to be conquered, and the way she delivers it is really good, and it's like a repeatable moment, and it's a really defining sort of Janeway strength moment, and it's a punch to the air bit, so that's why it's so high. But evocative in all the ways you said. Brilliant use of dream imagery. Genuinely chilling episode. Great stuff.
My second spot is Vanishing Point. I really like this episode. It's one of the better ones from the early seasons of Enterprise. I like that it's Hoshi Sato, who was underserved in good storylines and character notes, which is a real shame because I think episodes like this show that she had the chops and she can carry an episode, not just feature in a scene. I think she's great in this. The story sees her battling with one of her many neuroses. Here it's the transporter, which was in Enterprise was very much new technology.
Yeah.
Only a few people on the ship had actually used it before. Archer and Reed are specifically mentioned.
It was just for cargo, wasn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Originally, just for transporting cargo.
It was interesting that when we did our Trek Tech episode and we talked about the transporter, and we expressed our trepidation of using the transporter and that it would have to have been proven technology before we'd even use it. So I think this episode taps into that fear. What if something did go wrong? What if your molecules didn't fully beam back into place? What if you started to phase out of existence? It taps into all of those in a very interesting and clever way.
Yeah.
What I like the most about the episode is that while something is definitely off, something's not quite right, I don't think it's immediately obvious what that could be. You have to try and figure it out. And then when the reveal comes that it's all just happened in a few seconds, this whole storyline with the aliens invading the Enterprise and setting up a bomb, I think it's a good reveal. I couldn't remember whether, because I'd seen it before, I knew that was what it was, but I can't remember when I first watched it whether I guessed that was what it was. I definitely knew that there was something wrong. I don't think I did see that coming. Mm-hmm. You know that there is going to be a twist.
Yeah, it's nicely done. It's very nicely done.
If anything, it works a little bit like Dr. Crusher and Remember Me.
Yeah, that's a good point.
That kind of reveal.
That's a good double bill, actually.
You do have that realization where you go, oh, that's what it is. And so I think it works really well on that point.
I think you could put together a playlist now. You could watch the motion picture, this, Thomas Riker, Scotty in Relics, and Barclay's little vision, the creatures are like just scare the shit out of yourself for ever using a transporter.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Cool, Ian, you're number 2.
Was Phantasms, and we discussed that.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'm worried that my number 2 doesn't qualify because no one else has brought it up. So I'm going to say it, and if I'm wrong, I'm wrong.
We'll let you know.
Yeah.
I've got the Menagerie as my number 2.
Oh, that fails for all the reasons that we've discussed.
That's what I was worried about.
It falls into the fantasy element.
It does,
for sure,
it does.
Yeah.
That's why I got it, because they project the illusions to evoke the visions that the paralyzed...
I think that's all in hindsight, though, Rich.
Yeah, that's what I'm wondering. I won't dwell on it, but that's why I've got it here. The fact that this didn't feature in anyone else's list, I've got this creeping sense of doom.
No, but it sounds like you guys have got shore leave, and I haven't got shore leave.
I did have, and I've dropped it. So yeah, I switched out.
Right, I took it out because I put it at number 8 because that was in our rules of not using it.
I was confident about this one until neither of you mentioned it, and I'm pretty sure it won't be your number 1. So I was like, because you are the original series guys, so I was like, oh no, okay.
Yeah, no, I wasn't of a frame of mind to include that one.
See what you did there?
I have to say, when I did my list, it didn't even occur to me to include it in my list.
Well, I mean, it might be your relationship to the original series. I was trying to. I was looking back through and trying to think because there was a couple.
When you mentioned Inner Light and Far Beyond the Stars, I had thought of those episodes and decided I wasn't going to cover those. So
yeah,
and the Elysian Kingdom was ones that these were ones that I thought about. Shore Leave was definitely one that I did consider.
By the way, I considered Dreamcatcher.
Oh, interesting.
From Picard.
Why didn't you include it?
Because there were better episodes.
Yeah, no, fair enough.
If Wishes Were Horses was a wild fantasy episode, but it sucked. It's a terrible episode.
Yeah. Oh, there's loads that aren't good, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't want to include things just because they existed. Like you said, there's 20-something of these across the franchise, and some of them just either, again, don't make the list.
I won't do a swap out. I'll accept the fail. My number 2 is the Menagerie.
Captain Rich accepts the fail.
Yeah. Moving straight to Toby's number 1, which I suspect might be my number 1. It might be Ian's already alluded to it being his number 1. So, Toby.
I don't think it is going to be your number 1 because it's Voyager.
Oh, no.
And there were 2, one's from season 3 and one's from season 6.
Ah.
And the names are Remember and Memorial. Ultimately, because I don't do ties, I'm only going to pick one of them, and I'm going to go for Remember. It's a brilliant episode for Roxanne Dawson, B'Elanna Torres. I mentioned right at the front that it's quite heavy. This is a Holocaust story.
Yep.
Specifically, it's a Holocaust denial story with the Inaran ruling classes essentially representing the Nazis who have already exterminated their undesirable societal caste, and then they're lying about it to the younger generation, and it takes one brave person who projects her memories into B'Elanna's dreams, and then she lives the story as it's told, with her boyfriend being one of the undesirables who then gets taken off to the extermination camps which her father is running.
Toby picks cheery number 1, Shocker.
I know. I did warn you it's a heavy story.
Well, you lose the Heartless Bastard name for an episode.
Yeah, I guess.
Because this is all hard.
Yeah, no, instead he gets Morbid Bastard.
So Memorial is a very similar story, but it takes a broader approach, and it's more about war atrocities that are committed and the need to illuminate horrific massacres as a warning to future generations. You could argue that it's a more prescient story than Remember right now. While the Holocaust should never be forgotten, it's also important to recognize what's happening in the likes of Sudan and Burkina Faso, Syria, Palestine, etc., etc. With Memorial, the focus is on the whole crew are experiencing the massacre that they take part in. Remember is very much a B'Elanna story. Ultimately, what links these episodes, which are both very heavy episodes, is the decision that Janeway makes at the end of each one. She chooses to ensure that both experiences are honoured, even if it goes against Starfleet regulations. So in Remember, she won't commit to exposing the Inarans, but she does suggest strongly that B'Elanna goes and shares her story with some of the younger generation, so that through the telepathic link, so that they are made aware of it. And then in Memorial, while she's horrified that she and the rest of the crew have been mentally violated, she also chooses to fix the obelisk, and so that it continues. But they're going to leave a warning buoy or buoy, giving other visitors the option to either experience or avoid it, which is maybe that's a little bit like visiting Auschwitz or Hiroshima. It's a choice if you're going to go and experience that. Who thought that we'd be mentioning Auschwitz and Hiroshima in a Star Trek pod?
Well, it's all about consequence and arguably, how do I put it?
Acknowledging that these happened.
Acknowledging it, respecting the past, not letting it fade into oblivion.
So to avoid repetition.
And learning from it for the future.
I'm very prescient now. I mean, I'm a bit ashamed I didn't think to put it on my list.
Well, I didn't, because these are more or less projections. So I'm not straight
bit like
up.
the Inner Light, I suppose.
Yeah.
In Remember, she's specifically dreaming.
Yeah.
Balana.
Yeah.
She is specifically dreaming. It happens at night. When it starts, she's loving the story because she's falling in love, and so she actually chooses to go to sleep so she can dream about it rather than attend some events with the Inarans. So that definitely falls into the dream.
Fair enough.
The word I couldn't think of, or the term I couldn't think of, was bearing witness. That's what those episodes are totally about.
Yeah, and that's why when people get very upset when people discount bearing witness now, so often is because it feels like it's a willful justification for repeating.
Right. Well, that's part of the beauty of science fiction, is we can revisit these things, because what's happening is a lot of the people who experience this and live to tell some of these stories, whether it's the Holocaust or anything else that's happening in the world of this kind of genocide or whatever else, these people are passing on, and the stories will not be told in person live anymore. It's why things like episodes such as these, or the Shoah Foundation, what Spielberg did following his movie Schindler's List, is important stuff.
It's why I don't agree with the tearing down of statues. It's not that I like what they represent, but I think it's important those things if they were venerated once, we should keep them in place as a reminder not to do it again.
Right.
And I think it's an error to cancel and remove, because that risks repetition through forgetting.
Well, it's the first step towards repetition.
Absolutely. And I think if you go somewhere like Berlin, where they very much own their recent past, all of the edifices of both the Germanic Nazism and also the Russian occupation of East Berlin are deliberately showcased as reminders of the strength of symbolism and how easily we can be led down the wrong path. And I think the moment you start to remove those things, you are no longer bearing witness and you're falling into that very trap.
Agreed.
So, Ian, is your number one going to be the same as mine?
Frame of mind. Bingo! Yeah, look, it's arguably Riker's best episode. It's arguably...
It's definitely Frakes' best performance.
Well, thank you for stealing my sentence. Thank you. I appreciate it. So good. It is arguably Jonathan Frakes' finest performance as Riker. It makes you question what is real, what is not for the character. It tests where your sympathies may lie as well, which is interesting. It is a very visual episode. Lots of close-ups, tight shots, emotion on faces, particularly Frakes, obviously.
Good use of a fisheye lens and things like that a lot.
Yeah. I mean, because it's... What are we looking at? A fractured mind, I guess, would be the phrase that we're looking at. It's really all there on Riker's face. You've got anger, confusion, desperation, lack of hope as well, and pure terror. So it really checks an actor's performance boxes in terms of what one can do with the script. There's probably a lot of stage direction that was in that script. I've not read the script and following up the episode, but it was really exciting for me to rewatch this episode. It's really, really, really well done, and scary and thoughtful and interesting science, and a great score for it as well. Among my favorite episodes of the show. Again, there are so many that I don't even remember where it fit on my list, but it's a really, really strong episode.
Yeah, first thing I thought of when we got the theme, immediately, first one. It is also, I mean, it's interesting, I don't know if it's really been done that much before, but it's certainly been done since. Like Buffy did an episode as well, didn't they, where she was in an insane asylum and they were convincing her that her, I guess Total Recall is similar as well in terms of if you give into the fantasy or not. But it's very fertile. And one of the things which James Conway, the director, I believe has said is that he's quoting Repulsion, Polanski's Repulsion, which if you've ever seen it is like, that's slightly more arch in its blurring of fantasy and reality than this is in a way, but it's interesting because it is all about the environment becoming the oppressor as much as anything else, and I think that's what it does brilliantly. And especially sometimes we don't always acknowledge how in Next Gen they were still working with the square 4x3 TV frame, and I think the same for DS9, wasn't it? And that caused a lot of restrictions for sort of compositions and things. Everyone was always stood a bit close together in a lot of Star Trek because they had to fit them all in. But what's interesting is this takes that and makes it strength and really knows how to make that square frame work really well. It's an interesting commentary on the sort of the form as well as the show itself, that it does that, implying that the sort of the traditional TV image is claustrophobic and something of a trap. And I think that's a really interesting sort of meta element, especially when you think about it in relation to the Polanski film. I remember this one very vividly, seeing it for the first time, just coming away going, ooh, wow, that was incredibly cinematic, even for Star Trek. It was a great episode, and I'm surprised it didn't...
Falls just outside of my list.
Yeah, why is that, out of interest?
I mean, if I was being realistic, it would be the Lower Decks entry. I just wanted to include something that was a little bit more lighthearted.
Yeah, because you're number one. Yeah, I can see that.
It's really upbeat.
Yeah. Sticking to form.
What are your thoughts on Star Trek dreams, nightmares, and fantasies? Now, admittedly, I the one episode which I was kind of wished I could include, but again, for the same reason that you didn't include some episodes, Toby, is I wanted to have Holo Pursuits, Barclay's fantasies on the holodeck, but this is a holodeck, and we've done that before, and it opens up all those episodes, so I left it out.
I've rewatched quite a few episodes that I wouldn't like. I watched DS9's If Wishes Were Horses.
But it's such an abysmal episode as a whole.
Yeah, it was just very interesting research, because I watched all the Voyager episodes that I mentioned, including Memoria. I watched those again because it's been many years since I've watched those, and it was fun to revisit them.
Absolutely. So do let us know. The way to let us know your thoughts about and feelings about our choices and tell us your own, as all the ways to contact us are available in the description, so please do drop us a line. And other than that, we'll see you next time beyond the final frontier.
And live long and logically.
Sweet dreams.
Ooh.
And to our bit.
Since we're going with horror, do you want to go into Toby's horror noggin?
There's a thought to end on.
What a frightening place.
Don't let the bed bugs bite.
Thanks for listening to Beyond the Final Frontier, a Star Trek podcast with Rich Matthews, Ian Spenning and Toby Weidman. If you want to get in contact with us, you can email us on beyondffpod@gmail.com or check us out on social media. You can even join our Patreon at BFF Beyond the Final Frontier. Huge thanks go out to Alex Weidman for the brilliant original music. Please search Alex Weidman Composer on YouTube to hear the full fantastic theme and more. Also thanks goes to award-winning voiceover artist Cissy Jones for our excellent opening monologue. Find out more about her incredible work at cissyjones.com. And of course, last but not least, our brilliant artwork comes from the designer Russell Seal. Discover more of his work on behance.net/Russell Seal. Thanks again and see you next episode Beyond the Final Frontier.